Well, something strange in a neighborhood. A man dressed up as a Ghostbuster, posing for photos at a school volleyball game.
But what is alarming here is this man is a convicted sex offender and has been around children now for 2 years. It wasn't until recently the man was booted from a group that entertains crowds. Wave 3 News reporter Scott Adkins joining us live from Metro Corrections with exclusive video tonight. And Scott, this man just got out of jail?
Yeah, he posted bond this evening, and we had a chance encounter with the registered sex offender accused of dressing up as a Ghostbuster and posing in pictures with children on a school's property.
Suited and often surrounding that iconic ectomobile in the Pegasus Parade, parties, and fan festivals, Brian Patrick Scott played the part of the Louisville Ghostbusters until his own group busted him.
He was with us for almost 2 years.
The Louisville Ghostbusters, a group of friends who enjoy going out in the community dressed up like the characters from the 80s flick, kicked out Brian Scott when they found out he's a registered sex offender. Most recently, arrested for visiting a volleyball game at Beth Haven Christian School. Here he is leaving jail Tuesday. More on that in just a moment. But first, here's what police say got him locked up again.
He had brought his car that looks like the Ghostbusters Hertz or response vehicle, whatever you want to call it, and he was in his costume, and we have pictures of him with children taking photos, inside and outside the property.
Wave 3 News wanted to know why he did that, considering his probation prohibits sex offenders on school property. That's him under a hood leaving Metro Corrections.
Why did you dress up as a Ghostbuster at a volleyball game? Give me my mic back.
He never answered the question. You should know the Kentucky Department of Probation and Parole governs activities on those on the sex offender registry. Scott was convicted of possessing or viewing matter portraying a sexual performance by a minor.
Who's responsible to make sure it doesn't happen again? I suppose that's the courts, the community, law enforcement, and probation and parole.
And it was the community this time around that tipped off police about this incident at Beth Haven. The school made it very clear in a statement that Scott was not invited and not affiliated with the school. Scott Adkins, Wave 3 News.
Semis, 18-wheelers ignoring the signs. Just how many impacts can this viaduct take until there's a worst-case scenario? And could another hit cause a train derailment?
A trail of torn-off sheet metal and cargo leads to another wrong turn. Trailers buckled, roofs peeled off. Snapshots of damage after Wave 3 documented truck drivers attempting to duck under an 11-foot clearance.
Most answers we get is, I thought I could have made it.
The Norfolk Southern Viaduct at 3rd and Eastern Parkway decapitates tall trucks in a violent can-opener type crash. It shouldn't be a surprise. An electronic sign on Eastern Parkway warns oncoming traffic. So why would any driver put a career on the line? Our cameras hitched a ride with driver Brian Blair. A sign on Eastern Parkway illuminates from a sensor. Over height, turn right.
But it does not say the clearance of the bridge.
Until trucks arrive to the turn lane, it's too late.
If I wouldn't have known this area, I'd have probably made that turn. And then I'd have been stuck.
Cracks and chunks are knocked out of the bridge's concrete foundation.
Those are telltale signs that something had impacted it.
Norfolk Southern Bridge Supervisor Ian Crispin is often the one notified when an accident happens.
Just how many impacts can this bridge take from semis until something happens, something wrong?
I'd have to say that's an undetermined answer, but this is a very stout, strong bridge.
Even Crispin admits speed and a heavy load could knock what's called a through girder open deck bridge right off its bearings.
For example, they are doing construction on campus here. If one of the companies was to bring a large dozer or something that just is a solid piece of equipment, there is a good chance that it may disrupt the bearings.
It doesn't take a civil engineer to notice the damage after the crash.
There are pieces of the bridge that are bent.
But we asked one if there's cause for concern.
Sections of bridge that are in there are very stiff, very strong, so that the impacts that the cars and the trucks are hitting it with are relatively small compared to the strength that you have in the bridge.
And a solution is far from excavating pavement to increase clearance.
That whole area will flood out. Digging it down will exacerbate that particular problem.
Instead, McGinley suggests since unwitting drivers are ignoring warning signs, tractor trailers shouldn't be allowed in the area.
This is not a major thoroughfare, and we have to simply take those kind of vehicles off that road.
Until then, a viaduct will continue to whittle two tall trucks down to 11'8".
It is very tricky to come down in the city here, especially around this college.
Scott Adkins, Way 3 News.
She was left with a crater in her face after receiving radiation treatments that she didn't need. Way 3 News reporter Scott Adkins spent some time at home with her here as she prepares for life-changing surgery. And Scott, she tells you this is not about vanity or appearance.
Exactly, Janelle. A woman beginning a new life in Louisville can't speak, chew, or exhale. She's left disfigured after being mistreated for a tumor on her jaw. 10 years and 2 continents later, she's receiving the help she needs. Now, some of the images you're about to see are graphic.
She had 3 days to 6 months to live.
Doctors didn't get that right. 12 years since Lacia Senek's diagnosis.
Equals 6.
The Russian-born mother of 6-year-old Eric
10.
is no longer counting how many days she has left.
She didn't have cancer.
Yet the damage is done.
Не знаю, было тяжело, конечно, но я...
Targeted radiation treatments cause Lacia's jawbone and cheek to deteriorate.
5. И это?
What they did, they killed tissue, soft tissue, bone, teeth.
A Russian doctor misdiagnosed a tumor for terminal cancer. Unnecessary medical care caused Lacia's skin and jawline to decay. As her face fell apart, so did her life. The cancer treatments killed her unborn baby. She became homeless and barely made enough to support herself until her cousin Oleg Senek, seen here with her in the Ukraine as children, tracked her down online and flew her to Louisville.
She's a trooper.
Oleg couldn't spend another day knowing Lacia was living with a hole in her soul.
She always knew that I existed somewhere, but she didn't know how to reach me.
It's a tedious routine. Just to get ready, 7 times a day she lays out this spread. Gauze, tape, and scissors. It's what it takes to patch the empty space. But that's about to change.
We have enough skin to resurface the outside of the face.
When Dr. Jared Little discovered Lacia, the plastic and reconstructive surgeon agreed to lead a series of surgeries.
We'll remove the jawbone from the middle all the way up here to the hinge joint.
University of Louisville Physicians is making sure Lacia can live a life without covering up what unnecessary radiation left behind.
Certainly, if anybody deserves a chance of a new life, it's Lacia.
She says faith has always got her through.
She went to church very often to just pray.
And she's optimistic for better days.
It'll cost more than $1 million to pay for the procedures, but she won't be charged a dime. Dr. Little and his team are doing it for free. And Dawn and Janelle, it's certainly a story of inspiration and hope. This all begins in November.
That is unbelievable, and I guess to do all of that, they'll take a bone from another part of her body?
Exactly, a part of her leg, and then they'll transplant it there and reconstruct her entire jaw.
It makes you really grateful just to be born here and to see what she's gone through and to come over here and get that fixed.
Her prayers answered.
Yeah.
All right.
They'll get as much as she gets, I'm sure, from that, or more.
Thank you, Scott.